What is up, YouTube? HPJ here, and of course, I'm coming to you guys with another video. This video is going to be a little different. We're going to be taking a look at a tier list, one made by yours truly. Yes, I took, of course, the Harpy archetype, and I pretty much made a tier list for them. Now, you don't have to agree with this tier list, it's perfectly fine, but I am making sure because I asked this question in various places about doing a Harpy tier list, and a lot of people wanted to hear my opinion. So here it is in full form. Now, before I go any further, I just want to say thank you guys so much for your support and for watching videos on the channel, just like this one. And don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe as it helps out tremendously. You can hit the notification bell so you guys can be informed of when I do upload more videos and more content. You can also look in the description box below for the social media for the links to the social media accounts so you guys can interact with me there, from Twitter to Facebook to Instagram. And you can also hit me up on Patreon now. I have a Patreon ready, so I'm getting those things started, and hopefully with you guys' support we can get the channel going even more. So now that I have all of that out the way, let's talk about the first archetype of the Yu-Gi-Oh series, the first female archetype of the Yu-Gi-Oh series, and still predominantly one of the most controversial Yu-Gi-Oh archetypes in the series because of the fact that practically every card in this archetype, with the exclusion of a few of them, had to be censored because, well, boobies. So, remember guys, Yu-Gi-Oh is a card game for good boys and girls. And with that said, the Harpy archetype has expanded so much over the last 20 years. Yes, 20 years. I can't believe it myself. And the thing about the Harpies in the overall general consensus is that there are so many good cards, but yet there's so many of them that definitely need some new support. Or maybe even some cards that they associate with that definitely need retrains so that they can be used in a more proper fashion, even with the amount of support that they previously got. So I guess it's time to stop pussyfooting around and actually start going through this tier list. So I've sectioned it out from D tier to S tier. S tier being the superb lineup of the Harpy cards, and the D tier pretty much being the why they were only here for just being here, and they were subjected to their time. So, we're gonna start off with the D tier, and that is Harpy's brother, who is now known as Sky Scout, Birdface, Harpy Girl, Cyber Shield, and Harpy Lady Phoenix formation. So when it comes to normal monsters, Harpy Girl and Sky Scout are pretty much your sequential. They're here to associate, but they're not as strong or as useful as they should be. As we all know, Harpy Girl is one of the lowest statted Harpy cards in the archetype. She has 500 attack and defense, her level is 2, she's not even treated as a Harpy lady, and the only thing that she associates with most of the combos, if she was ever considered to be played, and that's rare, extremely rare if she would, is that she has Harpy in her name. She's level 2, so maybe some Debris Dragon plays, but even then, no one's going to really give up a slot to put in Debris Dragon just to support summoning Harpy Girl. Because if that's the case, just look at all the lineup of things. The Harpy archetype itself doesn't really need its low level monster to do anything anymore. It's got all the support for 4 and 7, and even 6 if you want to play around that. And now 8, because we have our own Synchro monster. So at this point, if Harpy Girl does get a retrain, hopefully she would be some type of sequential tuner maybe, or even in a manipulator, so that way we can manipulate levels and go into other ranks as well. Now, with that said, Harpy's brother, who's not even Harpy's brother, he's Sky Scout. Yeah, we're going to talk about the name change. Now, to fit in with the TCG's variation of Yu-Gi-Oh, Harpy's brother was not Harpy's brother in the OCG. His original name is Birdman. Because of translation issues, and I'm sure one of them being copyright, because Birdman is technically trademarked, the TCG ended up turning him into Harpy's brother, primarily because he looks like a female Harpy. I mean, he looks like a male Harpy to counteract his quote, female counterparts. He shares the same level, attribute, and type as Harpy Lady, so they probably just fit him in. But a lot of the cards started to exclude him because he wasn't considered a Harpy Lady. He's not even a Harpy monster due to the kanji. So at that point, the TCG, as an Astro Pack 2, changed his name to Sky Scout, which he will forever be known as. Hopefully, he does get some support later on, and maybe actually makes him part of a really good wind attribute winged beast archetype. Birdface! Birdface is the most odd of support cards for the Harpies in terms of a monster support card. This monster has an effect that if he's destroyed by battle and sent to the graveyard, you can search your deck for a Harpy Lady and add it to your hand. That would have been good years ago, which it was, but at this point, there are other means to search for Harpy Lady or actually put her onto the field. There really isn't much use for him even in Duel Links anymore because there are still sequential setups to where you don't need Birdman unless you just want an attacker to get over Harpy's hunting ground without having to destroy stuff. And just the overall fact that he's level 4. So at that point, Birdface was just a product of his time. And lasted as long as it did till Harpy Channeler came into the game, and we really didn't need the effects of Birdface because he couldn't get to her because she's not a Harpy Lady until she's on the field on the graveyard. So, Cyber Shield, one of Harpy's only equipped spells to ever be printed. It is essentially one of the oddest cards to have because it only increases the attack of Harpy Lady or Harpy Lady Sisters by 500. If this card has any other significance, it would have been better, like in the destruction effect, it's destroyed by your Harpy card effect or your opponent's card effect. But it doesn't even have that. Even in this Bandai version, Cyber Shield gave attack and defense, and it didn't matter as long as the card was a female monster. Actually, no, that was the video games. Some of the video games that did that. Cyber Shield in the Bandai version was only able to equip the Harpy Lady, or any monster that was Harpy Lady, and give that monster 500 attack and 400 defense. At that point, this is just another old school card that was just there to power bonus. Kind of like, Violet Crystal, Electro Whip, and stuff like that. And surprisingly, it is the only one of the two old Yu-Gi-Oh! Equip spells for the Harpies to actually make it because Rosewood didn't and Cyber Shield did due to the whole BDSM, thing about the Harpies. And also remember, this card was heavily censored in the TCG by having the spikes on the breastplates removed. So, next up is the Elasticity Tier, and that's Harpy Lady Phoenix formation. This card got its heavy nerf because it would have been way too broken with its anime effect. Kind of like a lot of other cards in the Yu-Gi-Oh! Series that were, coming from the anime into the actual card game. A good example of that is Cards of Sanctity, which was heavily nerfed from its anime effect. If you know Card of Sanctity, its effect was that both players drew until they had 6 cards in their hand. And then there was no drawbacks to it. Literally, both players just drew until they had 6 cards in their hand. I believe every character in the show at that point only had 1 copy of Card of Sanctity, so it was limited in the series. But when it became a physical card, it was completely nerfed. Similar to how Harpy's Phoenix formation was completely nerfed. In the anime, this card destroyed every monster on the field based on the number of Harpy Ladies you had on the field. Then it would inflict damage to your opponent equal to the combined total attack of all the monsters on the field. You didn't have any restrictions there except for I think you can conduct battle phase, but at that point you destroyed every monster your opponent controls. When this card became a physical card, they nerfed it heavily, saying that you cannot choose a summon from your main or your extra deck. The damage that you inflicted to your opponent was only based on the highest original attack of any of the monsters that were destroyed by its effect. You could use multiple cards like this, card, so there wasn't a restriction there. But it was based on if you had 3 or more Harpy Lady or Harpy Lady sisters on the board. And in the anime, if I'm not mistaken, my use Harpy Phoenix formation, where she only had 2 Harpies on the board. I think it was Harpy Lady 1 and Harpy Lady 2. So, yeah, they had to heavily hit this card. And all the things that this card restricts you from doing is what Harpies do the most, especially summoning from the main deck or the extra deck and putting a giant board onto the field. So, Ixnay on the effects say. Alright, so we move on from the disappointing D tier and we go on to the slightly less disappointing C tier. We have Harpy Lady 2, Harpy Lady 3, Triangle Ecstasy Spark, Harpy's Pet Baby Dragon, and Harpy Lady Elegance. So, Harpy Lady 2 and Harpy Lady 3, another set of cards that are a product of their time. They're always treated as Harpy Ladies, so unfortunately, that's kind of mostly what they're relevant for, is that they're the 2 Harpy ladies that associate with Harpy Lady 1 who are actually the Harpy Lady sisters. In the Bandai variation, these monsters' numbers were actually switched. The redhead was actually Harpy Lady 3, and the spiked blue-haired Harpy was actually Harpy Lady 2. Also, in conjunction to that, both of these Harpies have very mediocre effects that even by today's standards would be laughed at, because most people don't play flip effect monsters. And even if you did try to stop a monster from attacking for 2 turns, you can exceed, link, synchro, find some way of fusion, and all other sorts of methods to remove that monster, so where that stun effect is null and void. Or a monster isn't affected by other card effects and gets over the effect of Harpy Lady 3. It's sad to say because both of those effects were really good. Yet, like I said, they're products of their time. And the only real relevance they have is that they always treat it as Harpy Lady, no matter where they are. So you have to either not play them or play someone else, like, I don't know, the other 3 monsters that are always treated as Harpy Lady. Triangle Ecstasy Spark, the attack card of the Harpy Lady sisters. This card is an amazing card, except for one big drawback. It's attached to the Harpy Lady sisters. And because of this, there needs to be Harpy Lady sisters on the board in order for this card to trigger. The other problem with this card is that the attack boost erratas every other effect on the board if you use it. So say for instance, you have Harpy Lady 1 on the field, who gives 300 additional attack to all win monsters. Well, if you play Triangle Ecstasy Spark on your, let's say, 3250 attacked Harpy Lady sisters, they would jump to 2700, but they would not gain the bonus from the Harpy Lady, because unfortunately, it errates the 300 boost and forces their attack to become 2700. It's weird and it sounds stupid to most people, but that's actually the reason why a lot of people did not want to run Jungle Ecstasy Spark. Also, considering the fact it took till Harpy Oracle for this card to be researched, because it did not have Harpy in its name, only in its text, and that was Harpy Lady Sisters. So Hysteric Sign couldn't search for it. The reason why it does hit the C tier is because it does have some uses to it, stopping your opponent from activating trap cards until the end of the turn, and any trap cards that they have already on field are negated. Plus, you get Harpy Lady Sisters to get a massive boost to their attack strength and become 2700, which is not bad, considering I think that is a full combination of attack for each of the Harpy ladies if they were ever boosted by another spell that boosted them each by 400. I'm not going to do the math and complicate anything, but yeah, Harpy Lady Sisters attack card sits in this C tier. You know what else sits in C tier? Harpy's Pet Baby Dragon. If it wasn't for the fact that this was such a meh monster, Harpy's Pet Baby Dragon could have at least been an alternative for Harpy's Pet Dragon, which it did try to do, except for a few things. It didn't protect the Harpies from being targeted by card effect. It gained its effect to destroy stuff, but you needed multiple copies of Harpy monsters on field, which isn't hard to do. But putting him on the field without him having to be in defense position is basically either I waste my normal summon or I use another spell or trap that can special summon a monster like it to the field. Most RP decks stopped using this monster after a while because, well, there was just easier cards to summon and we weren't going to use Harpy Channeler's effect to just waste it on a baby dragon only for it to be destroyed by a card effect. So that someone can swing into the Harpy Channeler or just use something like a Dark Hole-esque effect to remove the monster. More so a Regeki. But yeah, this guy has to in the C tier because it wants to be faithful to its masters. Just Konami wasn't faithful to it. Harpy Lady Elegance, which I actually like the OCG name of this card better. The Elegant Harpy Lady. So, this is another one of those cards that requires Harpy Lady Sisters to even activate. You shuffle the Harpy Lady Sisters back into your deck and special summon 3 Harpy monsters one from your hand, one from your deck, and one from your graveyard, who do not share the same name. You can't social summon wind monsters, which is perfectly fine because this card is going to be used for social summoning wind monsters in the first place. And then that yeah, you're just locked into wind monsters for the rest of the turn after you've activated and resolved its effect. Its secondary effect is actually really good, but you rarely see this card being played because of the fact that its first effect heavily requires you to play the Harpy Lady Sisters. Now, for those who want to know what its second effect is that if this card is destroyed by your Harpy card effect or your opponent's card effect, you can add 1 Harpy monster from your deck to your hand. Which sounds not too bad if you think about the things you can do with it in terms of searching out for Harpy monsters. It's just that because it's attached to Harpy Lady Sisters, a lot of people didn't want to play it. And a lot of people probably just didn't want to fit in another trap card that they couldn't fully utilize all of its effects for. It does have some great artwork because, of course, it features the Harpy Lady Sisters, which this would have been a great option for some type of retrain for them, if anything. It's just that it kind of sucks that it's attached to Harpy Lady Sisters, who I will get into once we get into the next part, which is the B tier. So, Harpy Lady, Cyber Harpy Lady, Harpy Lady 1, Harpy Lady Sisters, Harpy's Pet Dragon, Harpy Queen, Harpy Dancer, Harpy Harpist, Harpy's Pet Phantasmal Dragon, Harpy Oracle, and Harpy's Feather Rest. So, oh, sorry about all the noises, guys. Harpy Lady, Cyber Harpy Lady, and Harpy Lady 1. These 3 monsters are the other of the 5 that are always treated as Harpy Lady. These 3 see the most play from Harpy players because, well, 1 is really good with normal monster cards, in fact. The cards that focus on normal monsters. This Harpy Lady is always treated as Harpy Lady, and it's funny when someone Valors her because her effect is not an effect, it's a condition. And Harpy Lady 1 gives 300 attack to all wind monsters. So when you're going for the rush, 300 attack can mean a lot of difference. And the thing is, because of how Elegant Egotist is itself, and how we have all these other monsters in the archetype that are treated as Harpy Lady on the field, become Harpy Lady, I'm sorry, not treated as anymore, become Harpy Lady on the field in the graveyard, it helps swarm the field. And there are so many different combinations you can get with these 3 monsters because of how much support Harpies have overall. The crazy thing about Harpy Lady is that Harpy Lady herself didn't really start seeing play till the card Unexpected Die started seeing a lot of play. And a lot of decks were looking for ways to extend combos. So Harpy Lady made her grand debut back into the main deck as a simple way to extend those combos. So Unexpected Die has a lot of great play out with the Harpies. Plus Cyber Harpy is just the beat stick. You can play her if you want to, you can play her if you don't want to, but she's there just to be Harpy Lady. And like I said, 300 attack from Harpy Lady 1 can mean the difference when you start swarming the field. So now let's get on to the 2 highest level Harpy monsters in the main deck. Harpy Lady Sisters and Harpy's Pet Dragon. While both of these monsters do need a retrain, their subsequent support for the archetype has become a lot more useful as we have a lot of cards in the game that do focus on level 5 or higher Harpy monsters. Although these two are the most difficult to special summon, in that we do now have Cyber Slash to basically replace either, there are a lot of those players who want the extension of plays or want to have more plays with other cards that do individually use them. Although these are our options for those high level rankings in the main deck, they desperately need retrains, especially Harpy Lady Sisters. For it's been enough time for Konami to give us a retrain of Harpy Lady Sisters, and we have not seen that. Especially considering the fact that they're still locked behind only having to first be special summoned by Elegant Egotist. While Harpy's Pet Dragon gets a little leeway because it doesn't have that exclusion to itself, but Dragon's still a level 7 monster and it needs to have 2 tributes. Otherwise, you're fetching it for another card effect or something is special summoning it on its own accord. So, yeah, I mean, it would be nice to see some variations of cards to help support the Harpy archetype, especially when it comes to higher level monsters. They try to do some stuff with Harpy Channeler, but you still kind of need the dragon type monster to even execute it. So at that point, Harpy's Pet Dragon, Harpy Lady Sisters do see their one of spots, but that's about it. And there's really no need for multiples of them unless it's old school style of playing or you want to feel very different. Harpy Queen. Harpy Queen, our field spell searcher, our 1900 attacker. She still sees play in the deck because she can also help you go get Harpy's hunting ground. That's about it. That's it. Oh, that's Harpy Queen. And then, funny enough, she was the first of the Harpy monsters to have the text of this card's name becomes Harpy Lady while in the field or in the graveyard. Originally, it said this card's name is treated as Harpy Lady while in the field in the graveyard. And it was the one Harpy to help you break that whole mold until Harpy Channeler. And then from then on, it was great to have a lot of these newer Harpy monsters to have that. So that way you can have a lot more combos and playability with cards because they were treated as Harpy Lady. Harpy Dancer. Harpy Dancer isn't a bad monster. It's just unfortunately there's not much use for her. We have Divine Wind of the Mist Valley, which is not a bad card. The thing is, you have to get the Dancer on the field first in order for you to take advantage of it. And because there's no search for Divine Wind of the Mist Valley outside of generic field spell searching, there you don't see that much in Harpy decks. And at most times, because of how combos and stuff are, you barely see Harpy Dancer. She's a nice one of, to bounce a wind monster back and put it back on the field. But that's about all you get from Harpy Dancer. And if this was like older variations of Yu-Gi-Oh, that'd be great because you can combine that with Harpy's Hunting Ground and do some massive damage, but that's about it. And because it's also attached to a hard once per turn, yeah, you kind of get it. She's just there. And I mean, I get why she's just there, and she does fit her that one little slot, but that is about it. Because everything that could be good about Harpy Dancer is unfortunately not good about Harpy Dancer. Which is not a bad thing. Like I said, she's in this B tier because she's not bad, but she's not good. And she does have some sites to be better. Harpy Harpist, and the only thing I like about this monster, and what most people do agree, is her search effect. You can add a level 4 Winged Beast monster. No, level 4, yeah, Winged Beast monster with 15 or less attack from your deck to your hand. On an end phase effect, and that she has all these restrictions. Because if she could get someone that was a little higher, it would be great. She'd probably be like Flying Kamakiri in a sense of what her search is. Or even better, she would be a Winged Beast Sangan or Witch of the Black Forest. The sad thing about it is that it's all due into restriction. Which sucks for her. And her first effect isn't really that relevant because it's just a bounce of another Winged Beast you control and a face-up monster your opponent controls. Just to send them back to hand. It's some type of disruption, but at that point, you have better options. Harpy's pet Phantasmal Dragon, known in the OCG as Harpy's pet Mirage Dragon. This is actually a really good Exceed monster. The only issues that I have with this is that it could have been a rank 7. It needs three level 4 win monsters. Not 4, 3. 3 level 4 win monsters for its Exceed summon. That's it. Otherwise, it has a great protection effect. It has an ability to attack your opponent directly. You lose your material for it at the end phase, but if you already stacked on the damage, this is a really nasty monster that your opponent has to waste material on just to get over it. Not to mention, it can't be targeted by other card effects because it's a Harvey monster. So you have your options cut out for you. For that, the retrain of the Faithful Servant, that would be a very good retrain. Also, this is our first Exceed monster, and it wasn't a bad choice. It was just there could have been so much more better if it was ranked 7, or it was at least not that much material attached required to special summon it, or at least not make it such a generic summon. I mean, such a restricted summon. Actually, no, because then you could summon or monk it with the right amount of cards. So yeah, the restriction was actually not a bad thing. But anyway, Harpy Oracle. She is your retriever for spells and traps that specifically lists Harpy Lady Sisters in its text and adds it from your graveyard to your hand. If you control level 5 or higher Harpy monster, you can special summon her from your hand. But the thing about Harpy Oracle is that she's supposed to be our extender, but you need the level 5 or higher Harpy monster on the board. If that wasn't her restriction, Harpy Oracle would be seeing a lot more play than she is now, because literally she would probably say, if you have a Harvey monster, you can special summon this monster from your hand. So that would give a lot of combination plays, especially considering she to be our extender. And we love extenders. Yes, we do. We love extenders. And I think, honestly, I would love to see another Harpy extender that did do the whole special summon if you had a Harpy monster or Harpy card on the field. So that way you could generate more things, and even limit us to just summoning monsters, like maybe just summoning wind monsters or summoning Harpies, monsters instead, and then you start giving us some really good support there. But that's when it comes. Um, Other than that, she's not too bad herself because she can get your other Harpy cards for the graveyard that have Harpy laces in the attacks. It's just the fact that it's on the end phase, where a lot of other cards can automatically do it without any problems. Um, Move on from her, and we have Harpy's Feather S to close out the B tier. It's our pot of avarice. It shouldn't restrict itself, but it does, so that it isn't as broken as pot of avarice. Returning 3 Harpy Lady and our Harpy Lady Sisters from your graveyard to your deck does help because it recycles a lot of your material. You have Oracle to retrieve it from the grave, and you have Harpy Fish removed to add it to your hand. From the deck. It has Harpy in its name, so Hysteric Slime can also get it. And it just has a lot of good recovery. It's just, for a lot of people, they don't want the recovery to limit them on, if you're going to give me draw power, don't restrict me to 1 unless I'm forced to have a level 5 or higher monster of the archetype on the field in order to do that. And this is also why a lot of Blackwing players hated cards of Black Feather, because that banished your at the time, you didn't have anything to retrieve anything from the banish outside of Burial from a different dimension. Maybe Miracle Dig if you felt that necessary to do such. And then you just had better cards like Allure, which did banish the 1, but it didn't stop you from special summoning. And I know they didn't use Pot of Avarice. Some did use Duality, but it was like you gave up your special summon to do this. It kind of wasn't right though. And then I know later on there was Pot of Extravagance plays. There was plays with Pot of Desires. No, I think they didn't. They stopped using a lot of Blackwing players stopped using Desires, and now they're going for Pot of Prosperity, which is a really good card. It just sucks that card is like so. It's so expensive, so it is hard to get. But yeah, Harpy's Feather Rest. It's here. It's not bad, but it could be better. So now we move on to the A tier, and we have Harpy's Feathers Duster. Duster. Harpy's Feather Duster, Harpy's Hunting Ground, Hysteric Party, Harpy Conductor, and Alluring Mirror Split. Known in the LCG as the Split Mirrors of Seduction. So, Harpy's Feather Duster, it's back in the TCG at 1. It's the only card in the game for the Harpies that's affected by the Forbidden Limited list. Knocks on wood. And that is literally a massive removal of your opponent's spell and trap cards. This is honestly something that Konami probably was thinking of unbanning, because if they unbanned Heavy Storm, it's a card that does create more problems, because at that point you would set your own spells and trap cards and then benefit from their destruction. Then you also have Giant Trunade, which was a good massive removal. Problem, there wasn't many cards to negate Giant Trunade. So you were forced to run stuff like Dark Bribe, which did negate and destroy Giant Trunade. But you also have to look at this here. Trunade was also a resetter. And if you had cards that could easily be reset by Giant Trunade and something that your opponent probably didn't want you to reset, it would kind of be really unfair. Which is why they did try to give it a retrain in Hey Trunade, even though that card kind of doesn't see much play outside of Duel Links. It was a good option. And a lot of people were waiting for a retrain of Duster, but forgot Hunting Ground was kind of that retrain, in a sense of more what it does. But after all the long wait, we finally did get this card. And it's not really much of an S tier card, because unfortunately, most decks don't play back row. Or if they do, it's some stuff that they can change stuff to, negate other stuff with, or prepare to do some defense um, strategies with. Harpy's Hunting Ground. This is the only field spell for the Harpy archetype. It is sequentially a really good field spell. Just its problem is that because of how good it is in terms of what it does, it has to destroy itself due to its own effect. Which is that if a Harpy Lady or Harpy Lady says this is normal special summon, the player who conducted the summon selects a spell or trap on the field and destroys it, which is mandatory. So if Hunting Ground is the only spell or trap spell on the spell slash trap on the field, it has to be destroyed. And it's one of those bittersweet things, because you got to have your Harpies, hit the board and then wipe out your opponent's back row. They did create a lot of other cards that help in that sense, so that if you did have to destroy your own spells and drops, you got some benefits from them. Some definitely needed, better attachments, but yeah, I mean, Harvey's Hunting Ground, it has to hit this A tier because it's a field spell that does something that most archetypes didn't really have, and they had to give the monster effect, which was spell and trap removal. And it didn't see its field spell searcher till Queen, and then more searching through Hysteric Sign and Hysteric Sign, Harpy Perfumer, and its retrieval through Harpy Oracle within the own archetype itself. Because there are a few cards that can get field spells back if needed. Now, we move on from the field spell and we go on to Harpy's first trap card in the series, and that is Hysteric Party. A free discard of one card that says to summon as many Harpy monsters from your graveyard to the field as possible. The only sad thing about this card is that it you don't have anything to search for it. That is it. Inside the Harpy archetype, there's nothing to search for. There are a few cards that do search for continuous traps. Thing is, it's a trap card still, so you have to set it, and you have to wait to activate it. Now, the risk versus reward does kind of tend to cancel itself out, as you can literally bring out 5 Harpy monsters onto the board and do tons of combo plays. The thing is, you can't get Harpy Lady Sisters with this because they're technically not a Harpy Lady, and you are only restricted to Harpy Lady monsters, which, if that is the only restriction, practically every other monster in the archetype is a great target for this. But you can't summon things like dragons. You can only summon Harpy Lady. And outside of that, I mean, this card is still really, really good because it set the tone for a lot of other exclusive archetype exclusive cards that helped in a similar fashion. Because I believe Ojamas have a similar card that says to summon them to the board. Or they're associating archetypes like the A to Z series and Diamond Dragons. So we move on to the next extra deck monster for the Harpies, our second and our currently our only Link monster, Harpy Conductor. Um, Link's range pack 2 gave us some really, ironically enough, gave us a really good card to basically do the whole play a good offensive game by being defensive. The protection effect is not bad. It's once per turn, but it's still not bad because it does help you protect your Harpy cards from being destroyed by other cards, and that you had the ability to destroy your own spells and trap cards, which triggered a lot of other Harpy cards because it was a Harpy effect destroying them. And she's a 1900 attacker. She can become Harpy Lady on the field in the graveyard, and she still especially sees a lot of play. Ironically enough, not even in Harpies, but in other decks as well, because she just needs to win monsters. And there are a lot of other decks that do have win monsters that can take advantage of her, and kind of even use her as an extension thanks to archetypes like Tri Brigade. So we move on from, well, actually I should explain why she's in the A tier. She's in the A tier only because of the fact that she's not a searcher for hysterics on a hysteric party, but her defensive game and her defensive effect can be utilized. And also the fact that even though she has that mediocre bounce effect, like that can come in handy. You may never know. It can come in handy. So, we move on from Harpy Conductor and we go on to Alluring Mirror Split. And the LCG as the Split Mirrors of Seduction. This is honestly one of my favorite Yu-Gi-Oh cards for the Harpy archetype in terms of its artwork because it features practically all the Harpy monsters that most decks use. You got your Harpy Lady, your Queen, your Channeler, your Perfumer, your Dancer, and a Harpy's pet dragoness monster, whether it's the big guy or the Exceed, or both. You got some variation of a dragon. The Alluring Mirror Split's only issue is its first effect, which is that the Harpy Lady or Harpy Lady Sisters has to be destroyed by battle. The exchange, though, is that you can just summon any Harpy monster from your deck whose original name is different from the one that was destroyed, which, even at that point, remember, we have a lot of Harpy cards that can easily be summoned off of that effect. It's just, I wish it said by battle and or card effect, and you could get some more plays there. Its secondary effect isn't bad either, which is if it's destroyed by your Harpy card effect or your opponent's card effect, you just summon a Harpy monster from your graveyard to the field, and that can also lead to your own combos, so where you can destroy this and get Oracle, or get a Perfumer that's in the grave, or even get some of your other bigger Harpy monsters and put them onto the board. So it tends to see some here or there play, but I like this card, and I do like utilizing its second effect a lot. So yeah, it hits the A tier, not just because of its appearance, but also because it has an effect that can be very substantially used if used properly. Now, let's move on to the S tier, and this is practically, I think, where a lot of Harpy players can agree. We have a really good lineup for the S tier. Elegant Egotist, Hysteric Sign, Harpy Channeler, Harpy Featherstorm, Harpy Perfumer, and Cyber/Harpy Lady. So Elegant Egotist, being one of the oldest Harpy cards in the series, and being one of the oldest cards to transition from Bandai to Konami's version of Yu-Gi-Oh! This is one of the most powerful extenders because the only restriction to it is that Harpy Lady has to be on the field to special summon either a copy of Harpy Lady from the deck or hand, or a copy of Harpy Lady Sisters from the deck or the hand. And because of this extension, this card still sees that play. There's so many cards you can search with this card. There's so many cards you can use to retrieve this card. And it's so many power plays that you can easily get off of this. You can exceed something, you can synchro summon, you can link summon. You get so much out of it. I wouldn't be surprised if Harpies end up getting a fusion monster and just take advantage of Elegant Egotist and do some contact fusion. Like if you have two Harpy monsters, you can special summon this new Harpy monster without using polymerization. And it'd be great because Elegant Egotist would just get another card attached to it, and we see a good portion of Harpy cards go up in price. Now, we move on from Elegant Egotist and we go to Hysteric Sign. This card's only restriction is that you can't use both of its effects in the same turn. But they knew why. Because let's you activate this card, you get Elegance from your hand or from your deck or graveyard. Then you pop this card with your Harpy card effect, or send this card from your field to the graveyard or your hand to the graveyard. And then you add 3 cards with Harpy in its name from your deck to your hand at the end phase of the turn. It was sent from your hand or field to the grave. They knew they were doing with this card because this card would be extremely broken, and sadly it would probably be limited, kind of similar to cards like Fire Formation, Tinky, and stuff. Even though it's an exclusive card to the Harpies, it probably would have eventually been unlimited. But just looking at all the power plays that this card has, yeah, they were right to limit this card. But this card is still one of the best Harpy cards, and it has to get its recognition because literally without this card and the next card I'm going to talk about, the Harpy archetype kind of would not be substantial. And that next card is, of course, Harpy Channeler. Discard Harpy card from your hand to summon any Harpy monster from your deck to the field defense position. You control a dragon monster, her level becomes 7. This monster's name becomes Harpy Lady while in the field or in the graveyard. Right? Literally only what Harpy Queen was out in 2008. So that was 1, 2, 3, 4, literally 5 years later, and we got more support to really do something that we desperately wanted in the Harpy archetype, which was to such a summon more Harpy monsters. And what a good one, because she can summon Harpy's pet dragon and benefit from it being on the field. Going into a rank 7, being optional to go into rank 4s, and having the ability to do that all on her own effect is amazing. She can get copies of herself, which that would be just as broke as Summoner Monk. So that restriction does hurt her. But everything she does overall is why she is the most utilized Harpy monster in the main deck. Next to another Harpy monster we'll be talking about shortly because of her standing ploy effect. Like literally we have 2 amazing main deck monsters that do so much that it can cause so many combos to happen when they're summoned. Next up is Harpy's Featherstorm, the second of the Harpy trap cards, and a very powerful trap card at that. This sequentially set the standards for hand traps because Harpy's Featherstorm literally negates all your opponent's monsters' effects to the end of the turn. So no hand traps, no nasty monster effects in the grave, none trying to sneak off into the banish, and it stops all of it. It can utilize all its effects now because Harpy's Feather Duster is unbanned, and if your opponent's stupid enough to try to destroy your back row, then literally this card triggering will go off. And you can pop this into any deck that uses a Winged Beast, literally setting it and then flipping it over to stuff like Samorg or variations of Tri Brigade that do use other winged beasts. And if you do have a Harpy on the field, you can easily drop this card from your hand, giving it one of its own standalone effects. And you can search for it with Harpies with Hysteric Sign because it has Harpy in its name. So we move on from this very powerful trap card to move on to Harpy. Oh, excuse me, Harpy Perfumer. Wow, Harpy Perfumer is amazing, and she literally is an additional searcher. She can search for any spell or trap with Harpy Lady Sisters in its text, which even if you look at it, you have 2 very old school Harpy cards with Harpy Lady Sisters in its text. You have a lot of the newer cards that can easily be played for combos. And even though this is essentially not good, you still have a lot of the other support cards that Harpy Perfumer can get as well because it has Harpy Lady Sisters in its text. And in combination with that, if you do summon her while you control level 5 or higher Harpy, you get to search for an additional card. So you get to set up a lot more plays and a lot more setups. And extending thanks to Perfumer. This is why a lot of people love Perfumer just as much as they love Channeler, and pretty much put them in their S tier because these 2 can start so many combo plays. It's crazy. Even on a special summon, she can search for cards. And you haven't really seen that much since Stratos. And a lot of, archetypes had to be very careful because they didn't want the cards to be too broken in that sense. But I'm telling you, this is a great addition to have. And of course, we have to move to the last of the S tier, and that is Cyber Slash Harpy Lady, who's on the LCG as Scratch Slash Harpy Lady. Or, I'm sorry, it's Harpy Lady Scratch Slash. Being a monster who's based off the attack of Cyber Harpy Lady, and ironically enough, having the outfit of the Harpy Ladies while they were equipped, why they became Harpy Lady sisters and equipped with cyber shields. Um, this is honestly one of the highest static monsters for the Harpy archetype. Highest attack, highest level, and a very amazing quick effect. Although it does not negate, Cyber Slash Harpy Lady's quick effect to bounce a card on the field or a Harpy card can be said essentially useful. She can even bounce herself back and then trigger off something like Harpy Conductor. She can bounce back a card your opponent has to disrupt their plays. And mind you, it's a quick effect that can be played on either player's turn. So you get even more usage out of it. And just essentially looking at it, wow, she came so late after the Synchro era. Like, if she came during the Synchro era with the effect she has now, this card would be extremely useful. We'd be extremely happy to have her. She'd be a level 8 Synchro monster. We can play tuners. In addition to the fact that she can make any Harvey monster use for her synchro summon a tuner. So literally she's like she could be a predated Exceed monster. And it sucks because if she came out so much earlier, honestly, yeah, she would be really expensive. She probably have some reprints. And she probably could have even had her own lost art to where this artwork of her from the OCG would be essentially useful in the TC. Would be essentially sought after in the TCG. And I love the fact that we have her because she's so awesome and she has so much utility, and that's why she's here because she rocks. And that generic special summon, one tuner plus one or more non-tuners, yeah, they knew what they were doing. And I honestly wouldn't be surprised in the future if we did get a tuner for the Harpy archetype just to fit in, so that way we could take some advantage of her in terms of synchroing. Even though we can do that with a discard off of Harpy Channeler for the summon of a Harpy monster, or Harpy Perfumer grab Elegance and use Ego to get a Harpy Lady and then Synchro. So, yeah, that pretty much wraps up this video. And I know it's one of my longest too, because the upload's going to be crazy. But I just want to say thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. And please stay tuned for more videos to come. So, till next time, you guys, HPJ signing out. Take care.